What's up, everybody? Welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for Halloween, October 31st, 2017. I am Game Over Greg himself, Greg Miller, joined by Princess Aurora.
Hello! What's good, Greg?
How are you?
I'm doing excellent. It's Halloween, so that means that I've got some candy.
You got that candy?
I'm eating a bunch of sugar that I don't normally eat, which is excellent. I'm here.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
good
in
time to be
costume.
alive.
It's going to be a good day. And we got some breaking news right before the show.
Yes, we did. Let's just start with it right now. What's up?
So I got a tweet from Xbox, like literally 3 minutes ago, saying that PUBG finally has a release date for
December
Xbox
12th.
One.
It's coming.
I was kind of convinced they might not make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the year? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but here it comes.
December 12th is when you can play
$29.99.
PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds.
Same price as the PC version.
Yes.
Very exciting times. That is going to
Indeed.
be awesome for Xbox One owners.
Yes,
Much
it will
needed.
be very good.
Very, very much needed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kind of Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday, we get together right here on twitch.tv/Kind of Funny Games and run you through all the video game nerdy news you need to know about. You can also get the show on podcast services around the globe or video on demand on youtube.com/Kind of Funny Games later when we upload it there. If you want to be part of the show, you can go to kindoffunny.com/KFGD to write in, leave your questions and all that stuff. And during the show, if we get anything wrong, you can go to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong to keep us honest and let us know what is going on.
I like these new chairs.
You do you?
Yeah.
I don't
They have
like
so
them at
much
all.
more they have so much
They
more
push you forward too much.
versatility. No, but that's good though. I do wish they had wheels. I understand why they don't have wheels.
You can't trust Greg Miller with wheels.
People,
No one man should have all that power.
People move around too much, but
Definitely. Some housekeeping. Extra Life is this weekend, this Saturday, the 24 hours. We will be playing a bunch of video games, trying to raise money for the big, beautiful kids. It's going to be awesome. Are you popping by for that at all?
I think
Not to throw pressure
so.
on you, but-
I think I'm supposed to be out of town. I might have a shoot in LA.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Very fun stuff. Well, speaking of you doing cool, fun stuff, you guys, What's Good Games has a new show over on Facebook.
We do.
People should check that out. It's called Lights Off. It's a Let's Play series of you playing scary games with the lights off.
Exactly. So we decided to do a horror gameplay series because our audience has been asking for it for quite some time. And we thought we would put a little twist on it by playing it in the dark with an infrared camera. Obviously, we're not the first people to do this, but we thought it would be a fun little twist. And also, like, I don't play scary games. I hate
There you go.
playing scary games. And Brittany Brombacher, the blonde nerd, was like, no, we got to do
gotta
it.
do
You
it.
can do it. And when you watch all the footage back of us, she always screams like with her eyes open, looking directly at the horror. And I just like me and Steimer just like close our eyes and are like,
so
oh my
funny.
God, no, I don't want to look at it.
There's 2 episodes up now?
There's 2 episodes. So there's an episode releasing every day this week.
Oh, shit.
At facebook.com/lightsoffshow. So please go there, give us a follow, watch the episodes. If you like them, hit that like button, leave a comment. We would really greatly appreciate the support. And I guarantee you will laugh in every episode.
And also today, because it's Halloween, there will be a Halloween stream starting at approximately 1:30. We just got to make sure we get this show and the morning show uploaded. Once that is finished, we will be live playing video games. We're going to attempt to play Friday the 13th. When that doesn't work, we'll probably play a bunch of other games because that game just doesn't really like to work.
That's true.
Let's see. What else do we got here? That's it. That's it for housekeeping. Now it's time for what is and always will be the Roper Report.
I can't do it. You're looking at me too hard.
What do you mean I'm looking
Look
at
off,
you too
son.
hard?
Come on, Jon Snow, you got this.
God damn. You were a sad, pathetic excuse for a human
There we
being.
go. The Squid Kid to save the day.
You looked right at my eyes,
We have
man.
4 news stories.
I'm banging something.
Jesus Christ, Kevin. All right, let's start off with the biggest thing. EA changes Star Wars Battlefront 2 crates after beta concerns. Here's what's different. This comes from GameSpot. Coming out of the Star Wars Battlefront 2 beta, perhaps the biggest subject of conversation was its loot box system. Many players worried that its implementation would result in a pay-to-win situation where those willing to spend money would be given an edge in multiplayer. EA and DICE spoke out on the subject after the beta ended, and now they've revealed specific changes being made to address those players' concerns. Star cards are a type of customization item that provides buffs, different skills, and so on. They can be earned through crates, but at launch, DICE has made it so that Epic Star cards, the highest tier, will no longer be obtainable through crates. Instead, players will get their hands on them primarily and that's in air quotes, not air quotes, I guess real quotes.
Real quotes.
By crafting through special ones will be available through starter packs, by pre-ordering, and by purchasing special editions of the game. Being able to craft epic star cards would leave open the possibility that someone buys a bunch of crates, turns the received items and materials, and then crafts epic cards. That would seemingly still be possible, but players won't be able to do so right out of the gate, as there will be a level requirement for crafting higher tier star cards. A select few weapons will be exclusive to crates, but DICE plans to provide access to most of them by playing. In a blog post, the company says that if you want a new heavy class weapon, for instance, you can simply play as a heavy to earn one. Classes will have milestones that unlock crates specific to that class. Inside, you'll find star cards and crafting parts. This may not be the last of the changes to how crates and progression work. This system, as well as all of the others, will be continually iterated on and improved, DICE said. When it addressed the situation in early October, it also said it's considering a fan-requested mode where all players will have the same set of star cards with flattened values. There's still no word when or if this will be added.
Well, this certainly seems like a Band-Aid over a much bigger problem. Clearly, just based off the description you read and how they're handling the crafting of these premier or elite star cards, there's still, the pay-to-win concern still exists. Mm-hmm. Sure, you can lock it behind a higher level, but that doesn't mean it's gone. And then putting them as pre-order bonuses is not, unusual. We've certainly seen weapons and armor sets and things of that nature as pre-order bonuses for several games in the past. But I think if they really wanted to eliminate all of these concerns, they just make them only available through in-game currency, and that's it. I don't know why that would be so difficult, unless they're so far into the certification process, which clearly the game's coming out in just a few weeks.
Very soon.
That they're now wanting to make sure that this is available for launch instead of a post-launch update.
Yeah, I like what they're talking about here at the end of the fan-requested mode where all players will have the same set of cards with flattened values. It reminds me of card games a lot where growing up, I played Yu-Gi-Oh!, for example, and it was a lot of fun playing with my friends, but then it hit a point that when one person had cards that were way better than everyone else, it wasn't fun anymore.
Right.
So it's we always like to kind of just have the same decks play together so that at least it was more skill-based. And so I like that idea, but this whole thing harkens back to something that I feel like we talk about on the show a lot, which is this whole microtransaction controversy and all of that. And I think that at the end of the day, it's good that there are fixes being implemented. It's good that they're reacting to the people uproaring about this and being upset, because that shows that at least they understand that there is a problem. And me and Greg, I remember a couple of weeks ago, were saying how it's going to take a couple years for developers to understand how to implement these systems properly without insulting people and without it feeling like they're just trying to steal money left and right. And I think that it is these Band-Aids that need to be taken as steps to get somewhere where maybe next year we're in a place where when it launches, all the big problems are solved and we're on to the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't want, my criticism of this to sound like it's not enough. Clearly, this is a good step. This is a step in the right direction. I think they can do more, and I hope that we will see them do more to tweak and balance this as the game launches and they, get it out into the wild, into the community, and kind of see where the balancing is. Yep. Obviously, all multiplayer games go through a balancing period post-launch anyway. Mm-hmm. So I anticipate, EA looking at how these star cards are used in the community post-launch and tweaking it so it seems the most fair it can be.
Yeah, and you got to hope, because, you have to imagine that if they make an insane amount of money on this, they're not going to be tempted to make the fixes, because that goes directly against the business of what they're trying to do,
Yes and no. It's tough to say. I've had some conversations with different dev teams about monetization systems, and what it always comes back to for me is the curiosity about why more teams don't price things to sell. And why they don't make it more alluring to a wider community instead of tailoring to whales. Because, sure, every game has its whales, but I think that you would be more successful if you broadened the in-game monetization to a much wider audience instead of tailoring to such a small group. And I think it would give it a lot more longevity too. I think it's just what it comes down to is that the dev team has one idea and the publishing and marketing team has another idea.
Absolutely.
And it's about trying to meet in the middle and making sure that everyone's happy with the final product.
Yeah. You bring up some interesting points about the whale thing with our next story. It has to do with Super Mario Run. This is about some Nintendo sales. This comes from over at IGN, and I also got some additional additional numbers from Jason Schriere over at Kotaku. According to Nintendo's estimates, Super Mario Odyssey sold over 2 million copies during its first 3 days of availability.
Wow.
That figure includes both physical and digital sales, as well as copies of the game included in Switch bundles. Nintendo President Tatsumi Kimishima revealed during the company's latest financial briefing. Kimishima went on to say that Nintendo would like to see Super Mario Odyssey become a, quote, evergreen title that has longevity in the market beyond this holiday season. Equivalent global numbers for the last 3D Mario game, Super Mario 3D World, aren't available, but back in December 2013, Nintendo said that it sold 215,000 copies of the Wii U game in North America.
That's such a different example because that's essentially like a Wii U port of Super Mario 3D Land, right? In the Super Mario 3D World?
That was a whole other game.
Maybe I'm getting them confused?
Yeah, 3D World was a sequel to 3D Land, but it was like way more fully featured and like it's way better as well.
Well,
3D
that's
Land's
my
awesome.
bad.
Yeah.
Also, like...
Well, no one played it. Only 250,000 copies reported to
Well,
be
it's
sold.
because there was only like half the number of Wii U's available than there are total sales at that time.
Oh, yeah.
I would have to look at the exact number of total sales. But
yeah, no, Super Mario 3D World was awesome. And it's a shame that so few people played it because, and even the people that did expected what we now got with Odyssey, which is a bit more open world and sandbox adventure style. But I absolutely love Super Mario 3D World, and I hope that it gets another life on the Switch because if they were to port it, I think that the sales numbers would be much, much higher than 215,000 copies.
it's just all about that virtual console. We could just, make that happen, Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for this though, it wouldn't even be virtual console. I mean, I think that they could, if they did a port of Mario 3D World with Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, like a 2-in-1, I think that it'd be super great to get.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't
Get
even
that out.
think about that as an option. Look at you,
It'd be fantastic. I
Mr.
know.
Nintendo marketing
I've thought
guy.
about this a lot. But anyway, it's crazy to look at those numbers, like 2 million for Odyssey. So then going on here, during the briefing, Nintendo also revealed that the SNES Classic has reached 2 million units sold. Now here's an interesting comparison.
That's the original, not the SNES, the NES.
No, SNES.
Oh.
The SNES has reached 2 million sold. For comparison, the company sold roughly 200,000 NES Classics during that system's launch month.
I would really love to know the difference in how many units they shipped versus they sold.
And you've got to imagine that
right?
that's the reason why, because that NES you'd think would be a lot higher had they had more out there in the wild. But this shows that they learned and they tried to adapt. And 2 million, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
Especially when Nintendo's already having such a great year in terms of sales. And then so now the bad news for them. Meanwhile, Super Mario Run has surpassed 200 million downloads worldwide, though the company says that the mobile game has, quote, not yet reached an acceptable profit point. Despite that, Nintendo said the game has helped the company learn a lot about mobile game development, knowledge it will use with its other projects going forward. Also in the report, Nintendo clarified that downloads in the company's home country of Japan amounted to only 10% or 20 million of total worldwide downloads. Nintendo added that its goal with Super Mario Run is to make it the definitive Mario application for smart devices. As part of its effort to do this, Nintendo mentioned the game's big 3.0 update that came out in September and added a new mode, stages, and a character. Quote, we also ran campaigns to foster more interest, including a special price offer for a limited period to commemorate the release of the new version. Although we have not yet reached an acceptable profit point, we have learned a lot in terms of game development and deployment that we want to take advantage of moving forward. Additionally, a slide showed that the September update for Super Mario Run helped bring players back to the game. As you can see, the weekly user trend figures jumped significantly following the release of the update. And yesterday it was revealed that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has exceeded 4.7 million copies sold, making it Nintendo's best-selling Switch title to date. Nintendo also announced it expects Switch to outsell Wii U's lifetime by the end of March 2018. It's currently at 7.6 million sold. A lot of really impressive numbers. A lot of really good things there for Nintendo. And what I think is interesting is the Super Mario Run business going on.
When you look at the game itself, and clearly there are hundreds of millions of people who have downloaded the game, just like I have, I quickly abandoned that game because it didn't feel like genuine Mario gameplay. There was like a bunch of jokes that came out when that game first launched about how there's like a Sonic jump game and a Mario run game, and how those should have been reversed. There should have been a Sonic run game and a Mario jump game, because as a platformer, that's what you do, a lot of jumping. So I just didn't like it. And I think it has to do with the style of game it is. Not anything against like 2D runners. Like there's a lot of popular ones, particularly on mobile, that are successful.
Rayman Jungle Run and Fiesta Run are,
excellent,
in my opinion, excellent games that nailed this type of gameplay better than Mario Run did.
Indeed. And I think that Nintendo is probably trying to, continually adapt that game to fit it into a category that it just is never going to fit into. And people are willing to take a risk on it and download the free version because it's Mario and it's Nintendo and it's a character that everyone knows and has a history of, really fantastic gameplay. But something about this title just didn't feel authentic to the franchise at whole. And I think that we see now they're learning about the mobile by the way that they've integrated microtransactions in the new Animal Crossing
And Fire Emblem Heroes
Pocket Camp
as well.
game. Yeah.
I enjoyed Super Mario Run a lot, but once I was done with it, I was done with it, and like the updates haven't got me coming back at all. But it's funny because going back, and it's in one of those hindsight things. But we had so many conversations back on Gamescast, like when Colin was with us, and we would always talk about his argument was always, if you put out the game at a retail price, like a bigger price than just the 99-cent bullshit. If you put something out at $10, $20, $30, like people will come because they expect a more premium experience. And this is an example of that not being true. And you can see Nintendo failing there and immediately going over to the Fire Emblem model, which is the gacha games. And every single day, if you look at any video game forum, like any popular forum like GameFAQs or any of the other ones that have specific game boards, the Fire Emblem Heroes board is popping off every single day because like there is a hardcore community of people that are investing money into that game every single
Alexa
day.
Ray,
Yep.
she spends a lot of money in that game.
Yeah.
I think that you brought up an interesting point about Colin talking about a premium mobile experience, and obviously he and I have butted heads about mobile in the past, but I think that he's right in the sense that if it has a price tag of that up front, but Super Mario Run didn't. You can download that game for free and test it for free and then pay for to unlock the full experience. And I think that was their downfall. Is they let people try it first, which is not ironic, that's not the right word. It's a little puzzling is maybe it, because demos have existed for a very long time in video games. And what's really sad is that their demo kind of worked against them in this case, where people tried it and were like, maybe they're like me and they're like, nah, I don't want to pay $10 because I'm not really into this gameplay.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because if they had just put it out for $10 and just unlocked the whole thing and not had a free version, maybe they could have seen a much bigger profit and much smaller overall download numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe they would have been more satisfied with that, to have like 30 million downloads instead of 200 million, but then all 30 million people paid $10 to buy that game.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting to look at. And I think that with right now, with Fire Emblem being the success that it is, and with Animal Crossing coming out, like that game is gonna hopefully destroy. Like it's like that seems like the type of
I think it's going to be very successful for
that
them.
people want. And it's like, if they keep going down that path, like what I want's a Pokemon game. I feel like Pokemon would be right at home with that. And what scares me though is it will be this free to play model with the microtransactions, whereas I would way more gladly pay the upfront $30 to get an actual Pokemon experience on mobile. But like with these type of numbers and from what they're learning, I don't think that will be the case. And I think it definitely would be in the style of Fire Emblem or
So
Animal
question
Crossing.
for you though. So if you're okay to pay $30 for a Pokemon game, why are you not comfortable with paying $30 of microtransactions in the game?
It's because of the experience and the way that it gets in your way when you're playing the game. There's this game, Peggle Blast. I love Peggle.
Peggle's
one of my favorite games.
So
ever.
good.
Peggle 1, fantastic. Peggle 2, fantastic. On mobile, there's a game called Peggle Blast. Peggle Blast is my favorite Peggle game. However, you can't buy it. It's only microtransactions, and the only way to progress and get through it is by paying all these stupid little things every now and then. And if you can only play for you can only lose 3 times an hour, or else you get every hour you get 3 more turns or whatever, or else you can buy it.
Right.
It got in my way so much.
But can't you just buy a bigger pack of currency up front to eliminate those roadblocks?
Whatever it wasn't enough for me. Where I was like, as I was playing, I was like, it's getting in my way. And every time I'm going forward, it's asking me to do things.
Can I ask how much you spent on that game?
I probably ended up spending $30, $40 on it.
But
When all said and done?
incrementally. You didn't
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
like the big pack up front.
I
would buy
definitely,
it.
there was multiple times about. I mean, I love that game, so I
Yeah.
put a lot of time into it. But yeah, I ended up spending money on it.
It's just interesting because when Robin Honeyke was on the show with Greg last week, and then she was talking about the free-to-play experience from like a dev perspective. I thought it was really fascinating. Her talking about how there's this like hesitancy of people who will say, I'll gladly pay $14.99 for this game, but I don't want to pay for microtransactions. And she's like, but they're kind of like the same thing, which is weird that we have this hesitancy, because I think it stems from when free-to-play really first entered the market several years ago and was really poorly done by a lot of different developers, particularly in the mobile space. It was really like they were nickel and diming people to a really aggressive and kind of disgusting way.
I think Peggle Blast is an example of that, by the way.
And now it's gotten much, much better, where they've learned that people are comfortable paying for it as long as they feel like they're getting a value for it. So it's like, I'm the kind of person that, like, when I first got Pokemon Go, for example, I bought the $20 pack up front because I was like, I want to have fun with this game. I want to experience everything that's in it, and I don't know how much I'm going to play it, and I don't want to be hit by roadblocks. I want to be able to just play it in the way that I want to. But I know a lot of people don't play free-to-play games like that. Instead, they'll play usually as much as they can up until they hit the first paywall.
And then they're like, I'm out.
And then they're either out and they're done, or they'll maybe do like the smallest pack available. And then not including whales in this conversation, of course. But it's fascinating to me how people kind of psychologically convince themselves what is and is not okay to pay for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. And I think, so last night, like, we decided that we want to start doing Grand Theft Auto online Let's Plays for party mode. So I was trying to get my character ready. And I went to the store, and like, I've never really been into GTA Online, so I don't really understand the whole ecosystem and all that.
The shark cards.
And there's shark cards. And I was looking, I was like, oh man, like, to make my character look the way I want him to, I need a little bit more. And I looked, and I was like, it cost me real life $3 to get more than enough in-game currency to get the character to look the way I want. And I'm like, cool, sold. Like, that is something that's worth it to me, but it's not necessary. I like that it's just like, it's on me if I want to do that. And it's just, I could get it in game. I could work for the getting in-game currency, but I was like, I want it now. I want to have the character how I want. I want to not worry about it. That's great. But with Peggle, I feel like it is, in order to progress in the game, you have to pay an obscene amount of money over time, because it's like Peggle 1 and 2, right? How much were they? Like, I think $15 at their peak, but you probably can get them for anywhere as low as $2 at some point.
Yeah, when they're on sale.
Yeah, and so it's like, that's the whole game experience, and you're there. It's impossible to play through the entirety of Peggle Blast without spending way more than that. And I think that that's the type of thing that it's not worth it. I loved it, so I kept going and I kept playing. But I did eventually find a glitch that just let me reset the game clock so I could cheat the game and keep playing for free. And then that's how I beat the game.
Yeah.
You know? But it's like, that shouldn't be something that I need to do. Like, I feel like there should be, if for a game like that, there should be some type of unlock system where it's like, even if it was the $20 or was some bigger number, because if I remember correctly, the biggest pack the game had was like $5 to get however many extra turns.
That seems poorly balanced on their part.
And it was horribly balanced, and it sucks because it was such a better Peggle game than the other Peggle games.
Have you revisited it recently?
Well, I mean, they haven't updated it since 2015, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Get on that.
I know. It's horrible. But what I loved so much about that game, and I recommend people at least try it and see what I'm talking about with how the microtransactions are like horribly implemented. But it's vertically oriented instead of horizontal, which I think is really good for phones. Like, Peggle on phones should be played that way because it gives you so much more like pachinko, like it falling down, right?
Exactly.
And, it's fantastic. But then they ruin it with the microtransactions. But anyways, the Nintendo stuff, going back to it, like away from the Super Mario Run, Mario Odyssey selling 2 million in 3 days, comparing that to the 7.6 million Switches out there. That is a very good sign for the attach rate and the future of Nintendo. With Zelda having 4.7 million, that's about to get crushed, right, by Mario Odyssey.
I don't know. It's tough because those two franchises are the two franchises that Nintendo is most well known for over the course of their entire span.
Pokemon, definitely.
Listen, Pokemon is up there.
And Mario are undeniably.
Do you think Pokemon's more popular than Zelda?
Oh yeah, 100%.
When it comes to Nintendo consoles?
Well, Nintendo consoles, there's never been a Pokemon game, like a proper Pokemon game.
Well, the 3DS.
Well, yeah, but that's handheld. I thought you were talking about home consoles. There's never been a proper home console Pokemon game.
I don't want to get into the weeds of that debate. I think what you brought up about the attach rate for Super Mario Odyssey is important because when Wii U launched, My biggest criticism of the launch of that system was that they didn't launch with one of their tentpole first-party titles.
Well, they did. Just no one cared.
Well,
New Super Mario Bros. Wii U, which again, fantastic game. It's just people don't like it because it has the same boring ass art style that the last 4 New Super Mario Brothers games did, and it was the fourth one to come out in way too short of a time span. But again, it sucks because that game's great. The level design's great. The boss fights are awesome. The Koopa Kids were back. That was a great Mario game in a shitty wrapper at the wrong time on the wrong console.
well, so they clearly, would you say that they botched that launch?
100%. I think they launched the console.
Well, that's certainly a discussion for another time. But I think the high review scores of Mario coming out, I think the general excitement about the console, about Nintendo Switch, and about how third party is now finally getting invigorated and excited about developing on that console has people excited. Clearly, people buy Nintendo consoles, though, for Nintendo games and for their lineup of stuff that's exclusive only to Nintendo. And I think it's really impressive, as somebody who was vocally very, critical of Nintendo earlier in the year, that they were able to launch not only a full 3D Mario game, but also a Zelda game. Mm-hmm. In addition, they also have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Splatoon 2.
Well. All the
they're just
Nintendo
really
IP are selling very well.
Really focusing on software. ARMS. Yes, exactly. In a way that they didn't feel like they were focusing on Wii U.
Yeah.
And I think that is absolutely what they needed to do to have the success. Now, not to throw water on the fire we have going here, but these numbers are great. No one's saying they're not. But they still are a drop in the bucket compared to their competitors,
compared to PS4, compared to even Xbox One.
Yes, so it will be interesting to see. And I don't believe that Nintendo will ever be able to catch up to PlayStation 4's numbers. Mm-hmm. Clearly, PS4 just has too many years ahead of them, and the global reach is just so much bigger than Nintendo's. But it'll be interesting to see, if Nintendo can really pick up some speed in the next couple of years and maybe catch up to the worldwide numbers of Xbox. Obviously, the Xbox One X throws a kind of an interesting wrench into that situation because there is a lot of hype for that console, and that's technically considered part of this current generation.
That's not going to boost the console sales numbers that much.
You don't think so?
I really don't think so. I think it'll just continue the trajectory. There'll definitely be the up point on the graph, but it's not going to be a huge dent in anyone else's.
I think it'll be interesting to see who wins November. I really think that. I think Nintendo and Xbox are really going to go head to head.
Yeah,
over the next few months.
I think it's almost unfair, or it's almost worthless to look at the holiday season for the console sales. I think because they're going to just sell out of the console sales, so it's really on who can produce the most at that point. When you go to a Target or a Walmart or a Best Buy during the holiday season, consoles are gone.
I guess I've never tried to buy a console specifically during holiday.
I mean, I know so many people that try and they're like, what the fuck? I can't get a PS4. It's like, it becomes a challenge.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I'm not talking about every store, everywhere. Your location may vary. But
with the rise in online shopping, that problem is not as prevalent as it used to be.
No, but I mean, still though, I remember, and I know Nintendo is a different example, but even PlayStation had this problem on Amazon where you couldn't get one during the holiday.
Well, my view of Amazon is incredibly tainted now after everything they did with my SNES Classic.
That sucks, yeah.
So we'll not be ordering from them again.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's interesting because you look at the Switch is in a fascinating place where it is a handheld, but it's also a console, and it really kind of is one of those things where Nintendo's just saying it's a console, so it's easy to compare those numbers to Wii U, where it looks like it's crushing it. You compare those to PS4 and Xbox One, it's not crushing it. You compare it to then the portable sales, and that's where I think it's most interesting with the 3DS. I want to say, let us know when you're wrong if I'm wrong about this, that it's at around 64 million sold. And I think that the Switch will crush that eventually. And that's a big deal. You talk about the Wii U and how much of a failure it was.
Almost 70 million worldwide.
Okay, yeah.
So it'll take quite a while.
It will, but
for Switch, to catch up to 3DS.
I think it absolutely will.
You think
3DS has been out for 5 years?
You think the Nintendo Switch will sell almost 70 million units?
Yes, I do. I think over time.
Are you sure that's not just the Nintendo fanboy in you?
No, it's absolutely not. Because check this out. Going back with my argument here, Wii U launching with the games that it did, I honestly feel that it was a cart before the horse thing, where Nintendo knows that it needs to sell a certain amount of consoles in order for it to be worth it to put the games on it for those to sell, to get those attach rates. With Wii U, yeah, they launched with a 2D Mario game that was so samey, and it was just the safe bet, and it just kind of lost it for them, right? And as the Wii U went on, it had some great software, but it didn't have the core games. It didn't have Metroid. It didn't, until the very end, have the Zelda. It didn't have the proper 3D Mario, the sequel to Galaxy that people expected. And when you now look at the Switch, it has all of those out of the gate. We're already kind of getting them. And these sales numbers are insane. Zelda's never sold that well on any of the systems. It sells well compared to a lot of other things, but it's not like this system seller, break the doors down with the sales numbers, right? Mario, 3D Mario, same thing. 3D Mario sells nowhere near the amount that 2D Mario sells. So for this game to already be selling as well as it is compared to how much Switches are out there, that's a good sign for Nintendo. You then look at games like Pokemon. Pokemon is in another echelon.
Yeah.
Those games sell so many copies, and they're evergreen, and they never stop selling. So once there's a proper Pokemon on the Switch and there's enough Switches in the wild, those numbers are going to be insane. And it's funny because you talk about when you compare Nintendo to PlayStation and how they're never going to catch up. They'll never catch up. It's apples to oranges. Nintendo being a success is compared to Nintendo. Let's make no ifs and ands or buts about it. Like, that is so true. But the attach rate of this, even Zelda, 4.7 million sold, that's really high even compared to PlayStation 4 exclusive titles.
No, it is. That number rivals what Horizon Zero Dawn did on PS4 with a much bigger install base. And I think that's a testament to the difference in game design and the innovation that Nintendo had with that title, and how it really reached out to people like me, who's only finished one Zelda game in my entire life and kind of just very lightly dabbled in several others. And I have played, like 60, 70 hours now of Breath of the Wild, which is far more than I would have ever thought of playing before, and like, I think that is a really great sign that Nintendo is looking at the current landscape of game design and saying, what are people playing? What are people interested in? How can we adapt our current franchises so that we can appeal to a much bigger audience? Because clearly they already have a gigantic fan base across the world, but they need to reach out to even more people, and they're doing that. So
I mean, with even their new IP like ARMS selling over 1 million copies, that
was a surprise to me.
That's a surprise. Yeah. And like they're hitting it, right? And when you compare the sales numbers, like PS4, I think the highest selling exclusive games, Uncharted 4. Last I checked, it was around 8 million. It's probably maybe closer to 9 or 10 at this point. But I guarantee there's going to be Switch games that blow past that in the coming years.
8.7.
8.7. Once there's enough Switches out there, like, these games are going to sell. When there's a proper 2D Mario game, when the Pokemon games finally come, they're going to blow past that.
Well, we shall wait and see.
We shall. Next story, number 3. Studio behind Eve Valkyrie abandons VR development. This comes from Game Informer. Leading up to the release of the newest VR headsets, Eve Valkyrie made waves as one of the possible killer apps for VR. Unfortunately, the game didn't live up to the hype, and now this Valkyrie is taking its own journey into the afterlife. CCP Games, the Icelandic studio behind Eve Online and Eve Valkyrie, is closing its Atlanta office, which is working on virtual reality projects. The closure has resulted in 100 employees losing their jobs. It's always hard to do such actions, but they are important, and if we want the company to reach 30 years, we sometimes need to make policy and organizational changes, says CCP boss Hilmar Viger Peterson.
So this is really troubling. Obviously, when a studio closes and people lose their jobs, it's always really sad news. But more troubling is that this was really one of the flagship virtual reality gaming experiences that's available today, and it was one of the first games that really got out there on I remember seeing this on the prototype Rift several years ago.
I mean, this game is really what sold, I think, the gaming media and press on VR.
Absolutely.
Again, going back to Colin, I remember he came back and he was saying it was like a religious experience playing Eve Valkyrie.
And to have a company as large as CCP say, listen, we just don't want to do this anymore. It's not good for our business. We need to restructure, because essentially that means it must have been a loss for them. That is very unfortunate for the future of VR gaming.
Yeah.
And this is something that we've talked about on the show before, but what's really difficult right now about VR games is that the install base is still incredibly small. With PSVR obviously leading the pack with just over 1 million units sold. They haven't released updated numbers, but the problem is that the hardware and the software aren't really aligned yet. The hardware, I think, is ready, but there's just not enough people making enough experiences to justify this incredible price point for VR, which is what's so interesting about what Facebook and Oculus are doing with the Oculus Go, their new mobile version of Oculus Rift that's going to be released. I can't remember if it's later this year or not, but it's going to be $199. So it's supposed to bridge the gap between things like Google Cardboard and like the Vive, for example, which is quite a wide gap to bridge. But it's troubling and really sad to see that, we won't see anything else from CCP in the virtual reality space. And it's also troubling for other AAA studios. Like, are they looking at this saying, wow, they had 100 people working in their VR division. Maybe we need to reevaluate how we're
doing with VR.
investing in VR? I
mean, so on the other side, I was utterly shocked yesterday with Paris Games Week and with PlayStation
how much
showing
PSVR was on stage?
It took me by surprise, and I would have lost a bet if I had to talk about how much PSVR would be shown. I really believed that they weren't going to have that second wave of titles, and they did. And they brought it, and there was a lot of them that were varied, and there was the smaller, like, this looks like a fun mini game. There's the ones that are like, this looks like a not fun mini game. And then there's the ones that are like, oh, this is trying to actually push the boundaries of what a quote unquote AAA VR experience can be. And it's like, wow, that is in direct contradiction to this type of news, right?
Well, Sony is so heavily invested in the hardware side of that they can't abandon the software side, right? So they're not like CCP, where CCP, does not have their own headset. Sony does, and because of the billions that they've spent not only in R&D but also launching that hardware, that they're like, well, we can't just give up on it now, at least without giving it like a good last hurrah. I think if we get to this same point next year and they haven't seen like a very substantial or incremental bump in software sales and potentially hardware sales, definitely. That's when we'll maybe start seeing it start to fade into the background, kind of like how they've just kind of stopped talking about Vita over the years. But VR is still super hot right now in, like the vernacular of everybody who works in tech. There's still billions of dollars being invested into the VR and the AR space. So we're not going to see them abandon it yet, but unless there's some kind of like serious uptick, it's going to start happening in the next year or two.
Yeah, because what we were talking about with the Switch, it's all about the install base. And if there's only 1 million PSVR units out there, that means that your maximum potential sales for any software
and
is
you have
1 million.
to have 100% attach rate, which is just impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see.
We will see. And then the final news story, this is a weird one. It's not so much a news story, but I think it's relevant to the show. This comes from our boy Marty Sleva over at IGN. He got to play Shadow of the Colossus Remake yesterday. And there's some worrying shit in here for me. The good news, so just to get this out of the way, the PS4 Remake is visually rebuilt from the ground up and absolutely gorgeous. Visually, it's hard to imagine someone being able to tell that it's based on a 2005 game unless they already knew that fact. The textures on the characters, environment, and Colossi are all incredibly realized. Seriously, even the way Wander's tunic danced in the wind held a mesmerizing quality to it. I'm happy to report that many of the technical shortcomings of the original 2005 game have been remedied this time around. The frame rate never stuttered during my demo, even as I climbed on the back of a giant beast, which was when the original game had a tendency to slow to a crawl. Likewise, the draw distance has been dramatically improved, allowing me to gaze all the way across the opening plateau. I can't wait to see how these improvements make some of the more visually arresting Colossi look. I love that. All of that sounds great. Now let's get to the bad news. However, all is not perfect with this remake. Most notably is the camera, which still has a tendency to develop a mind of its own while climbing Colossi. This was also one of my problems with last year's The Last Guardian. Along with this is the fact that the archaic control system of the original has been seemingly untouched, which is definitely a bummer. Having to tap triangle to make aggro run or dealing with when to hold the grip button or even the cumbersome bow and arrow mechanics made for a familiar kind of frustration and one that I'd hoped Sony and Bluepoint would have found a way to fix. What a bummer.
That seems like a major mistake. Yeah. If you're going to spend all of the money to make it look beautiful but play the same, I feel like, why did you do that?
Shadow of the Colossus is one of my favorite games of all time. People hold it very near and dear to their hearts, and it is one of those games that as time goes on, it becomes harder and harder to play. And Greg Miller, not a fan. Why? The controls. And this was the thing, like, they're going to fix it. They're totally going to fix it. Why wouldn't they fix it?
If you're making a remake,
From the ground up.
you kind of gotta fix it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are you doing?
What is really, really odd to me about this is we already had the remaster last gen on PS3.
Yeah.
With Eco and Shadow of the Colossus. Why do this again, remake it, and not fix the problems? Like, it really baffles me, and it doesn't make sense, and it turns into one of those things where I'm like, I don't want to support this. Like, if they don't fix this, I'm not buying this game.
I truly hope that he's playing a build that is meant to showcase the visual fidelity of this remaster, and that they'll put out another build potentially at PSX that will show them with the updated controls, or at least like tweaked a little bit. Like, but if they are like one for one the same controls of the original, like that is like a major misstep.
Yeah. And supposedly February 6th next year. So
that's coming pretty quickly.
coming real soon. All right. Andrea, if people wanted to buy some video games, where would they go?
They would go to the official list of upcoming software across each and every platform as listed by the Kinda Funny Games Daily Show host each and every weekday.
There we go. Thanks, Kev. There's a lot out today, and a lot of things that I've never heard of. This is a weird collection
It's
of
Tuesday.
games. It is Tuesday. Cartoon Network Battle Crashers is on the Switch, as is Monopoly for Nintendo Switch. Monster Jam Crush on the 3DS. Bubsy, the Woolly Strike Back. Everybody has been waiting for it, and it's finally out on PS4 and PC.
I'm looking this up now.
Bubsy?
Yeah.
Oh, God, don't. It's a fucking horrendous.
It looks like a knockoff Crash Bandicoot.
Do not insult me like that. 8-Bit Adventure Anthology Volume 1 on PS4, Xbox One, and PC is out. That includes Shadowgate, the NES game that I never understood. Oh, I'm familiar with Bubsy. I fucking hate the little son of a bitch. Beast Quest on Xbox One, Ben 10 on PS4, Dead Exit on Xbox One, Dead Hungry on PSVR. That was one that was announced yesterday at Paris Games Week. Disneyland Adventures on Xbox One and PC. Don't know what that is, but I'm into it. Dying Reborn on Xbox One, Maria the Witch on Xbox One. A lot of spooky games. Perception on Switch. That's the... Wait, actually, I don't know what Perception is. Pox Nora on Vita. Rabby on PS4 and Vita. The Vita lives. Rush, a Disney Pixar adventure on Xbox One and Windows PC. Spin Tires Mud Runner on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Steven Universe Save the Light on PS4, which I heard has a lot of problems, like game-breaking problems. Stifled on PSVR. That is another one that we saw yesterday, where you're blind and you can only see things by making noise, and it like kind of like echo like a bat. I don't know what I'm talking about. Sonar. Echolocation. Thanks, Kev. As he stuffs his mouth with candy. But wait, so that's what I was confused about. Wasn't Perception that game? Can you look up Perception on the Switch?
You got it.
And then Summon Night 6, Lost Borders on Vita. And finally, Zoo Tycoon Ultimate Animal Collection on Xbox One and PC.
It was released on May 30th for PC, with future releases for Switch, PS4, and Xbox One.
What is it, though? Is that the other blind game?
First-person adventure video game developed by the Deep End Games and published by Feardemic was first released. Hold on, I don't know what this game is.
I'm pretty sure it's the game where you're blind. The other one. That's not Stifled.
Which the player assumes the role of Cassie, a blind woman who navigates a mansion through the means of echolocation.
There you go. Two very similar games, same day. Now time for some new dates. Card game The Elder Scrolls Legend is getting a story expansion, Return to Clockwork City, on November 30th, featuring 55 new cards and 35 story missions. Square Enix has announced that World of Final Fantasy is coming to PC via Steam on November 21st, a little more than a year after it first appeared on the PS4 and Vita. And finally, like we said earlier, PUBG finally coming to Xbox One on December 12th for $30. Now it's time for some reader mail. What was that?
He's excited for
There's
reader
excitement.
mail.
Okay. This comes from Nick from New Zealand. Good morning, Tim and Andrea. Days Gone It's ironic because a lot of days have gone since the official Twitter of the studio behind Days Gone have tweeted anything out. July 14th, over 3 months and nothing. Dead silence. Is that normal for a studio, especially after what's overall a well-received E3 with a lot of people left wanting more from Days Gone? Is this trouble for Days Gone? Should we be concerned, or are they just holding this off for PSX? I know Andrea sat down with the developers at E3, so it would be interesting to hear your thoughts. You guys are doing what you love, and I love what you do. Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Hold on.
Oh no.
I dropped an
We
M&M.
have a problem.
I got it. Don't be worried. This is not abnormal. They, Bend is not a studio that traditionally goes out and does a lot of community work when they are working on a title, because they don't really have games as services, right? So just because we haven't heard from them is not a bad sign. When I spoke to that team, now it was not this E3, it was last year's E3 2016. They made it clear to me that they had a lot of work left to do on this game, to the point that I thought that there was at least a solid 2 years, if not more, left in development. Clearly, they didn't give me any specific timelines, but based off how vague they were being about a lot of the specific questions that I was asking, it was clear to me that they either, one, didn't have the answers for me, or two, weren't ready to talk about them yet because they probably weren't finished. So I think not seeing them at Paris Games Week was the right call, because Sony showed The Last of Us 2 instead. Will we see something at PSX? I'm not sure.
Really?
Because, we saw a pretty lengthy demo at E3 this year. And those things, those assets, whether they be a CGI trailer or a gameplay walkthrough, they take an incredible amount of time for development teams to create. And time that is taken away from the creation and development of the actual title that they are going to ship. So generally, they want to space that out. There's certain publishers create divisions within their team specifically to make those kinds of assets for shows like E3 or, PAX or Paris Games Week. And I don't know if Sony has done that with Bend for this title. I would imagine that they have not. So the people who have to make it are the people who are building the game. And so don't worry about not seeing anything from it. They are going to have to do a very delicate dance with the marketing for Days Gone, because as you guys spoke about yesterday, the concepts of Days Gone and The Last of Us 2 are so close that in order to make sure that they make room for each other, that they're going to have to be very strategic about when we're going to see marketing materials for each game.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Last we saw Days Gone was at this E3, and it looked way further along than it did the year prior, both from what they showed at the press conference and what they showed behind closed doors with their demo. And I think that it was strategic that it wasn't at Paris Games Week, and I think that they decided they wanted to close to the bang with Last of Us and kind of have that, hey, look towards the future. Like, we have games coming now, but we also have games coming later. I believe that Days Gone will be shown, or at least talked about in some way, around Paris Games Week or the Game Awards. If I had to bet, I would say that they're going to announce a release date at the Game Awards. Like a trailer with the release date.
Huh.
I know it's a ballsy prediction, but I think that there was a reason it wasn't here, and I think that they want to have a splash and get people excited, and that they need to get that game out sooner than later to be away from Last of Us.
I would be shocked if they released both games in the same calendar year.
Yeah.
But The Last of Us is technically slated for 2018.
No.
I saw.
No, Last of Us doesn't have any dates attached to it at all.
No windows yet?
No, they're just like, it's just here. Deal with it. Like, all they showed was like the Naughty Dog logo. There was not even a year attached. I imagine Last of Us is 2019. I think
it has to be.
Yeah. So Days Gone being 2018, I'm either on the mark or totally off with the Game Awards, because I feel that Days Gone needs to get ahead of it, but there is so many other games with God of War and Spider-Man, and so if Shadow of the Colossus is February, you can imagine that Spider-Man would fall in the May or June. I think June is a safe bet. It seems like the type of game that would come out when E3 is happening. Like, we've seen that before with The Last of Us and with I forgot the other big one. Was it GTA? that launched right
in
around
May.
E3.
Yeah, and Uncharted launched in May too.
And exactly, and Uncharted. So it's like Spider-Man feels like it fills that void. God of War is almost for sure going to be in March. So then you look at it, it's like, where does Days Gone fit?
Holiday?
It could, and it's like Sony hasn't really had that type of game in the holiday in the last couple of years.
And they could use it if they're trying to, compete for holiday sales. But I don't know. It's tough to say. Obviously, we as fans of PlayStation and what they do, we want the developers to take the amount of time they need to make that game, excellent, because they're in a category, a genre of games where there's so much competition that if they come out and it's not like pretty flawless, it's just gonna tank. But I would say, like, at the end of it, like, to answer your question, like, don't worry, they're working on it. I'm sure if we don't see something at PSX, which is the likely place, I don't think we'll see something at the Game Awards, not with them being right next to PSX, that we would see something potentially midway through spring next year.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if it's not out by E3, we would see another demo at E3.
Yeah, Days Gone is hard because I don't know where it falls, and I feel like if it does come out in the first half of 2018, we will see a release date at either Game Awards or PSX, and my money's on Game Awards. Jumping over to another question. Courteous Canuck says, good day, kind of funny games daily crew. I enjoyed PlayStation's media showcase quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to a number of games that were announced or given updates on. My question is regarding the Game Awards. What do you think Sony has up its sleeve for these shows? Sony has made some big reveals of the Game Awards in the past, and I imagine they'll have at least something new to show. Last of Us debuted at the Game Awards.
No, it didn't debut at PSX.
No, Last of Us 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Last of Us 1 debuted at Game Awards years ago. So yeah, like,
You mean the Video Game Awards, not
yes.
the Game Awards.
Yes. Yeah.
No, and it's an important distinction to make because the Video Game Awards were on Spike TV, and being on broadcast television, whether it be cable or not, is a much bigger draw for publishers to put a piece of marketing than digital only distribution, despite the fact that it probably gets the Game Awards as digital distribution probably gets a much bigger audience than the Game Awards on Spike TV ever got.
Yeah.
But that is
true.
That would be
That
a
is
good
true.
question to talk to Mr. Keeley about.
But Game Awards traditionally, even in any of its forms, has had big reveals of some sort. And even last year we did see Death Stranding, which was surprising. So I feel like Sony will have something there. And since we've already seen so much, Days Gone is the only thing we haven't seen. Right? With Paris Games Week showing a lot of the other stuff.
Right, but I mean, they didn't show it for the reasons I just said.
Yeah.
Like they can't do marketing for Tlu and Days Gone in the same show. I mean, they can, but it was not wise.
The fact they had Last of Us, I would have thought they would show something Last of Us at Game Awards. So the fact that they did it, I think it's backwards now. Like, I would have expected Days Gone at Paris Games Week.
Okay, I stand firm that they're not going to do it at the Game Awards. They'll do it at their own show at PSX. Something's happening behind us.
Something's happening behind us.
They're thumping.
Well, what do you think will happen at Game Awards then?
I mean, if they're going to show it at all, that's where they would show it. They would probably show a new gameplay walkthrough or potentially just a new trailer, maybe like a CG trailer with a release date or a release window in it, because it was such a detailed gameplay demo that they did at E3 just a few months ago that I would like to see more gameplay, of course, but I would guess maybe just a trailer, like a lengthy trailer.
Type trailer,
with,
release date.
with like a release window at the end.
Yeah. What about Death Stranding? Do you think we see it there?
No.
Ooh. Okay.
I don't.
I think we do.
This is not a PSX prediction show, Tim. We got more reader mail.
That's true. That is true. Let's see. Where do I want to start?
We could do that later, though, if you want.
Yeah, we should. I mean, we definitely have to do a Gamescast episode of predictions. 70G Patricio says, big fan. I'm mainly a PC gamer, but I'm getting a PS4 for the exclusive games. Just wanted to ask, I wanted some help on whether I should go with a PS4 Pro or a normal PS4. I don't have a 4K TV and not going to get one for a good while. And what games do you recommend? I'm already getting all 4 Uncharted games, God of War 3 Remastered, and 4 when it comes out. Horizon Zero Dawn, Last of Us, and Infamous. Any help would be appreciated. Thanks, and keep up the good work. You're kind of nailing it on the game front. It's a good start. Get those, finish those, and we'll go from there.
Without question, if it's in your budget, PS4 Pro.
100%.
Does not matter that you don't have a 4K TV. I had a 1080p TV until I just recently upgraded like 3 days ago.
Congrats.
Thank you. But the PS4 Pro looks fantastic on any HD TV. The upgrades in the resolution and the scaling and everything that you get not only on PlayStation games, but on tons of third-party games that have PS4 Pro enhancements, it makes without question the PS4 Pro the console that you should choose. Not only that, the menu system is faster, it boots faster, games load faster. Everything's just faster on the Pro because it has so much more power.
It's better wireless network connectivity.
Absolutely. And it's got a bigger hard drive than most of the other PS4 models. So I would say definitely get the Pro if you can. Now, if it's not in your budget, that's a concern. And there's nothing wrong with getting a regular one, but I would say if you're on the edge of, potentially getting a 4K TV in the next year or two, even if you don't have a 4K TV, the PS4 Pro is the best way to play PlayStation right now.
My thing is, budget-wise, it looks like he's investing in this ecosystem. Like, there's a ton of games he's trying to get. So if that's the case, get the Pro. I don't have any argument to why to get a PS4 Slim or just a normal PS4 over the Pro.
If you travel a lot with your console, then I would recommend the Slim because it is really great for traveling.
I'd still recommend the Pro just because it's just better.
It is better.
It's if you're first getting in, the people that I wouldn't recommend a Pro to necessarily are people that already own a PlayStation 4. Those are the people that I'm like, if you don't have a 4K TV, it's like, yeah, it's nice, but it's not a necessary upgrade. But if you don't have it at all and you're just getting to the ecosystem, I think it's a mistake to get anything but the Pro.
Agreed.
Let's see. Last question of the day. This comes from Wayne. Hey, you beautiful people. I apologize for the long question, but please bear with me, as this will be my first question on Kind of Funny Games Daily. Shortly after the Paris Games Week conference, there was a Polygon article lambasting the new Last of Us 2 trailer for its brutal portrayal of women, labeling them as victims of abuse. Now, I'm not here to fling poop at the article or author, but more the narrow ridicule that media, and I feel video games in particular, are somewhat scrutinized under from a usually personal point of view. Now, I appreciate that I can only be as objective as someone who sees the world through the lens of a white male, but pride myself on not judging people by their skin color, genitals, or where they think this amazing place called Earth came from, but rather by what they say, what they do, and how they treat others. I appreciate that we need to scrutinize who is represented in all media, otherwise we may still have Duke Nukem clones as protagonist in all games today if we hadn't. But I don't feel like we can then tell the art creator how they then use these potentially underrepresented groups when they present their art, women in this case, in points. I feel like every time there's an article of this type, it feeds division between groups as it's trying to tell the creator how to portray their characters. I agree with the article to an extent that the article was potentially too brutal, especially for a trailer reveal, but it suits the tone and lore of this franchise. But why come at the argument based around the characters being female rather than the actions of the characters being too brutal, irrespective of gender? I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on these kind of opinion pieces. Yes, I understand it's one person's opinion, and whether when media is scrutinized from one angle, it can actually be counterproductive from us heading to the point where we don't see a character and immediately categorize them rather than understand there are so many facets to a well-fleshed out character and assess other elements like, does this character fit in with the lore and world? Do these characters make sense? Do these actions make sense? Is there cause and consequence to their actions? You guys are seriously the best. Keep doing what you're doing. Much love, Wayne from Stoke, England. Oi.
So this is an interesting conversation that's been happening over the last 24 hours since this new piece of content from The Last of Us 2 was released. And the first thing that I thought of when I was watching this trailer was, this is incredibly violent and something that I never would have imagined PlayStation would have approved for a stage show on a global scale. Right? Like, this is not like some media briefing somewhere where it's a audience that will be able to critique it like in real time. This is going out to potentially millions of people as a piece of marketing for one of their flagship series from their like most critically appraised studio, right? So that to me was like really shocking from the sense that like this features really brutal violence, and a lot of video games do, but we don't really see this kind of up close brutality so humanized in pieces of marketing. And that's not only, I think there's twofold here. One, it's a testament to Naughty Dog's ability to make games where you feel things and care about the characters and what happens to them. But also, it's them potentially pushing the button because they think that they can get away with pushing the button and be like, listen, we're going to put this out there because we can get away with it because we have built up an audience trust. So they will know that we're not being violent for the sake of violence, that there's a greater narrative here that's going to be embedded in possibly, one of the best games of all time, right? Because Naughty Dog sets their bar incredibly high. So from that perspective, I trust that Naughty Dog is going to do the right thing because they have shown in the past that they've done the right thing, right? Not all studios can say that. Now, from my particular viewpoint as a woman and it being violence against women, listen, there's violence against all genders in video games. There's a lot of violence in video games at large. And it's a conversation that we've had on this show multiple times, that I've had on the Gamescast with you guys. Violence against particular genders and how it's handled is case by case. Now, in this particular case, I don't think that Naughty Dog is selecting the women to receive the violence to make some kind of a social statement. I think that it fits with the tone and the narrative of where those characters are at in this game. I didn't look at that and go, how dare they show the violence against women? I was like, if they had done that to a male character, it would have been just as shocking to me as it is to a female character. So I'm not seeing why people are specifically upset about it being a female. I think we need to be upset about the level of brutality that they just put out there into the world with not so much as a content warning.
Yeah.
Not even like warning this may be upsetting or disturbing, viewer discretion, nothing in front of that trailer that was be prepared, this is going to be shocking. That to me is the egregious part of what they did on stage yesterday. Not the fact that they showed a woman being beaten, but that they showed that level of brutality with literally no warning whatsoever.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because for me, I feel like going in and watching these conferences, that those type of warnings go out the window, just in the sense that it's not like you go into a movie where you have to buy a ticket and you have to be a certain age to see the red band trailers or to see, R-rated movies and all that. With video games, they've always kind of just been this open medium, and especially with the internet, you can get away with all that stuff on YouTube.
But there's age gates, Tim. Age gates exist for a reason.
That's true, but they're not required. That's the thing. I believe that going into these conferences, you're kind of just opening yourself up to see whatever they put in front of you.
Totally.
But having said that, I was reading a lot of these think pieces, and there's some arguments made that it's just it's problematic that there was that excessive level of violence shown in a trailer that we didn't even know what the game was until you got through the violence. So watching that, you don't know the context of it being The Last of Us, right? Going into it. And it's that could have started with some type of red band trailer or red band thing saying, hey, there will be violence and all that. They could have
even thrown up the Naughty Dog logo at the front of the trailer, so we would have known immediately that it was The Last of Us, or at least something from Naughty Dog. And so I think that would have set the expectation for the tone of what the piece was.
Yeah.
And instead they did it at the end, which to me was I get why they did that. They were trying to build
surprise
suspense
and shock
or whatever,
and,
right?
And it wouldn't have worked if they put that stuff at the beginning. But I don't know. The argument goes both ways, where it's you watching that, it should be pretty, or it is to me, it was pretty clear that this is about to get fucked up, right? And it's people can't act like they are surprised that got violent. They could have looked away at any point and all that. Having said that, yeah, you're right. It is being broadcast to a lot of people, and this is in the same conference that we saw Loco Roco 2 and all this stuff. But then it goes to what I was saying of the video games are very varied, and these conferences have always shown a large gamut of levels of brutality and violence or cartoony, whatever. And that's kind of the beauty of video games, is they can be all of these different things. And these conferences are being put out there for a whole bunch of different people and different audiences. Last of Us Part 1, its first real gameplay showing at E3 was extremely violent as well, with the guy getting shotgun in the face after begging for his life. Do you remember that?
No.
E3 20... 2014, I want to say.
That wasn't on stage though, was it? Wasn't that? I thought that was part of the behind closed doors demo.
That was during the press conference, and it was extremely like, whoa. So it's like, yeah, that franchise has a history of doing this, and it's like, does this fit within what that game is? I think the answer is yes. Was it excessive? The answer is yes. I think that to answer this question about the opinion pieces and all that in the Polygon article, I think that it's important that those articles exist. I think it's important that we can allow people to have different perspectives. And even though I feel like it's fine, and you can watch me during the live reactions, I was cringing. Like, it was hard to watch, but I'm like, I'm okay. I can watch that type of stuff. And I don't think that it is this horrible crime against anybody. And the women thing, I think, is ridiculous. Like, it's like, I go off of what you're saying. It's like, it could have been a man, it would have been the exact same thing. However, it did affect the author of this article in that way. And we need to respect that. And I think that there is a conversation there. And I think that it only helps us all to read those type of articles and see how it affects our opinion, and just see
Absolutely.
if there's other perspectives that we might not agree with, but just to understand where they're coming from.
Danny O'Dwyer, our former colleague, had a nice tweet thread about this yesterday. He said, "I need help. Are depictions of violence against women more okay if the foreman overseeing the violence is a woman, like a union rep?" Hashtag Tulu2. And somebody responded to him, "Genuine question, Danny. Did you have an issue with what you saw?" He said, "For a short trailer, it sure did have a lot of women being tortured and murdered. In this climate especially, it's hard not to." They said, "It did have that, but do you really believe that artistic expressions should censor itself because of what's going on in the world?" And he said, and this is what I thought was important, "This has nothing to do with censorship. They are allowed to create what they want. We are allowed to critique it." And I think that is the key here to hold on to. As you said, more voices are better than fewer voices. I think people are allowed to express their opinions about things, and we're allowed to disagree with them. That's the beauty of the internet.
That's what free speech actually is.
We can yell at each other all we want. So I think people are allowed to be upset about this. I think people are allowed to say, like, that didn't faze me at all. Yeah. You can do way more than that. I can handle it. And everybody's tolerance of watching that kind of violence is different. And video games in particular have gotten a really bad rap over the years for being incredibly violent. And a lot of it's super fantastical, which is why it which is why it hasn't been as big of an issue. And as somebody who just had to go through a bunch of ratings issues for my new series and what we could and could not show in the videos, like there are very specific things as to what's real and what's fantasy. And what Naughty Dog has done so excellently with their fantastic animation is make it look so real that it makes you feel things that you probably wouldn't feel, like in Halo when Master Chief is taking out, a bunch of aliens, right? Yeah. It's different. Yeah. It's a different kind of violence. Or even in Call of Duty when you're shooting like a no-name soldier in the distance. It's a different kind of violence. And I think that's why people were so, moved is the wrong word, but like we're so drawn to what happened, both in positive and negative ways. And so I think it's important just to make sure that we can have a discourse and to not yell at people for having their opinions, but recognize that Naughty Dog is doing their job if people have opinions. It means that they're making a piece of art that has impact, and that I think is the good takeaway here.
I mean, I think another thing to bring up is the context of it all, and the context of knowing Naughty Dog, and obviously they've been going through some bad times recently in the news with stuff. But besides that, when it comes to their products, they've always done a very good job of pushing women as a positive force, right? And just look at Ellie as a character. Like the entire, I have trust in them that this scene will make sense in the context of the game. And I think that even out of the context of the game, you can look at it and you can say, oh, this is violence against women, but you can also look at it and be like, there are strong women involved in this. And
Absolutely.
That is the points. This game is being made, and I guarantee you there's going to be many, many, many undertones of strong women in Last of Us Part 2.
Agreed.
Now it's time to squad up. Andrew on PS4 says, "Greetings to all of Kind of Funny. I recently bought myself a PS4 Pro. This was because Greg responded to me on Twitter. I'm a man of my word. I ordered a Pro and the awesome Platinum wireless headset. I've been watching Kind of Funny from the beginning, and I'm glad to finally be able to interact with the community further. Let's get to it. I'm new to the PlayStation ecosystem. I like Destiny. I want a very active and friendly community clan on both Xbox One and PC, aptly named Deep Vein Thrallbosses. I don't get that. I've created the PS4 clan page.
It's a medical condition.
And it would be fantastic to jump headfirst into the kind of funny community by getting together and shooting the shit. Nothing too serious. Casual clan for the weekly XP, clan rewards, and an active community. Make best friends. KFBF, this is your call to arms. Join us at Deep Vein Thrall Bosses and help to eradicate the Thrall Scourge from this planet and the next. Hit me up on Twitter at that92 or on PSN that92. Now the thing is, it's THAT, the number 9, and then TWO. Go for it. Well, I'll be more than happy to throw an invite your way. Keep up the good work, and I'm very excited to get cracking on these PS4 exclusives. Andrea.
Yes, Tim.
Now it is time for You're Wrong. Can you please let us know what we got wrong today?
Yes, and I don't know why this hasn't been getting cleared out.
I don't either.
Maybe Kevin, you can look into that later. Okay. Maybe it's Joey's department.
I think it's one of the mods. I hope they're okay.
So this one, this is from yesterday. Hey, Tim and Andrea, just writing in about something from yesterday's show. Dynasty Warriors set in feudal China, not feudal Japan, like Greg suggested. Two very different countries.
Yeah, that's true.
Tim, one quick note. I'm pretty sure Greg Miller doesn't drink LaCroix.
That is true.
Don't break the immersion.
I couldn't go without it. I'm sorry.
You could have put it in the mug.
Addicted. I could have, but I also needed coffee because I'm addicted to drinking things.
Let's see here. Now, this one's interesting. Capitalist Pig, always keeping us honest. Read the NES and SNES Classic sales. I could have sworn I heard Tim say the NES Classic only had 200,000 units produced. According to this...
In the first month. Sold in the first month.
Okay. So maybe that wasn't made clear. But he says, according to this, they sold 2.3 million during its lifespan.
Yeah, that makes sense then.
So that's good to know. And he then linked the article where that number came from.
Thank you, Capitalist Pig.
Somebody else also mentioned the LaCroix.
I knew it. I love you guys.
Capitalist Pig again. Zelda versus Pokemon. Main series Pokemon games have sold 201 million copies combined. 279 million if you include spin-offs since 2016. Zelda as a whole has sold 84 million as of 2017. And keep in mind, Pokemon debuted in 1996 and Zelda in 1986.
Yep.
Good to know.
Yep.
Do you think, though, that has something to do with the fact that there are far more Pokemon games than Zelda games?
There aren't, though.
There aren't?
Definitely not.
You don't think there's more Pokemon than Zelda games? Aren't there like dual Pokemon games every time they release?
I mean, okay. Yes, that's true. And most of the time it's 3. But red, yellow, blue, gold, silver, crystal, ruby, sapphire, emerald, diamond, pearl, what's the other one? Platinum.
Black and white?
No. not
Sun and
yet.
Moon?
Hold on. And then black, white. Okay, maybe there's a lot actually, because then it's black, white.
And then
black
there's
1,
all
black,
the new versions of the old ones.
Well, yeah. So there's black and white, and then black 2, white 2, and then XY, and then Sun and Moon, and then there was remakes of Red and Blue, remakes of Gold and Silver, remakes of Ruby Sapphire. But there's a lot of Zelda games too.
Not that many.
Yeah, there's not that many. You're right. You're right.
So stemming off of that, Andrea said was wrong. Pokemon isn't bigger than Zelda. According to the VG sales, Mario is the number 1 franchise. No surprise there. 564.8 million. Pokemon, 294.6 million. Wii series, which I believe is like Wii Sports,
Yeah, and
is
music
202.9 million. The Legend of Zelda, of course, 84.9. Donkey Kong, 56 million. Okay, let's see here. Charles J says the controls for SOTCR ships with the original and new optional controls. Shadow of the Colossus remake. Original and new optional controls.
Okay. Well,
However, the new controls are optional, and they said they wanted to show the experience like the original, which I imagine is why the demo with the standard controls.
Interesting.
Which
Good.
is not a decision I
There's
agree
hope
with.
still.
Okay, that's good to know. That's from Silicon Era. Yes, please. Here. There's like 2 more in there. This is also Falcon Box, also kind of coasting off that. Back in June, Shuhei Yoshida did state that Shadow of Colossus would have updated controls.
Good.
Why would you not show them with the updated controls, PlayStation?
Good Lord. Come on, guys.
Apparently we missed something in the releases. Spin Tires Mud Runners came out yesterday for the Xbox One and presumably the other systems.
I said that.
Oh, there you go.
It was on my list.
You're wrong then. Zyger, I can't help but notice Andrea keeps referring to Greg as Tim. Andrea, I know Greg's Tim Getty's voice is really convincing, but don't let that LaCroix on the table fool you.
I like you, Zyger. Fuck boy.
Abrax says Batman Arkham Knight launched right after E3 a couple years ago.
That is
as
true.
like an addition to those
That is
games
true.
that launch in June. So Capitalist Pig, the closest I've been able to find to any official Last of Us Part 2 release date is when Druckmann said during PSX it's still early days for the project. The game's release is a ways off, but we couldn't wait any longer to show you a glimpse of what's to come.
I have some homework for someone. Capitalist Pig or something. I want to I want to know how many Zelda games there are compared to Pokemon games. Because I'm thinking about it. There's been a lot of Zelda games. Like, I understand that Pokemon racks up really quick because there's like multiple versions.
There's doubles, yeah.
But like Zelda has a lot of games when you even think about like the DS games and
We'll look through.
Four Swords Adventures and all that.
Spider-Man, according to Strifey, Spider-Man only had a 2018 date, no seasonal date, unlike God of War, which has early 2018, and Detroit, which has spring 2018. Seems like God of War would be March and Detroit going into E3. I think we would see Spider-Man come out around April to match Avengers Infinity War movie release.
I imagine they're going to want to avoid the movie release.
Yeah,
if
this
anything.
isn't a tie-in title.
Yeah.
This is a standalone original game that has a lot of investment from both Marvel and PlayStation. So I'm not sure they would want those coming up against each other. Also, like, I don't know if the game's going to be ready. So
Oh, it will be.
you
It
think
definitely
so?
will be. Yeah, Spider-Man?
By April?
Oh, okay. No. But
That's-
May or June. I don't know. That's close enough.
Yeah. I think Spider-Man feels like a game that doesn't matter what time of year it comes out. It's going to crush. It's going to do so well. I'm so
I mean,
excited.
they're sticking to the thing of saying that all those games are first half of 2018. That ends in June. If you can do math.
BM Bodish says, Andrea, at the beginning of the stream yesterday, there was a warning for content that wasn't appropriate for younger audiences. It said E through M in the classic ESRB logo that we all know and love. I was watching. I guess I must have missed it. Thank you for that update. I think I would have preferred that they put a standalone disclaimer directly in front of that trailer, just to reiterate it that like, yo, this is
Shit's
like,
about to
we're
go
not
down.
kidding. Like, this isn't like, it wasn't like the Call of Duty trailer, for example, where there was people being shot. This is like, it's going to get real heavy.
Yeah.
Be ready. But thank you for letting me know that. And that's it.
And that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Halloween. Thank you very much for joining us. We will be doing a Halloween stream after this, but we're going to need about a half hour to upload all of the podcasts and stuff. So probably, I'm going to say 2 p.m. will be our go time for the stream. We love you all very much. Tomorrow's host will be Gary Witta.
Widow Wednesdays.
Widow Wednesdays. Yeah, thank you very much, Andrea, for joining us.
Of course.
And until next time, I love you.